That's what I thought you said. Now let me offer this as a rebuttal.
Yo, what is good, Pubg Nation? It's your boy Survivor #1 coming at you with another sensitivity video. Now, it's been a couple years since I've done a sens video. I'm going to go over my new sens, which haven't changed too much since the last time, but I've been asked for a sensitivity video for quite a while now, and there's a few changes I've done. So we're going to run through briefly each of my sens. The videos you saw at the beginning of this video were just some examples of me using different scopes and scenarios, so you can get a feel of how I am dialed in with these sens. They won't be as in-depth as my previous video, but I'm going to run through them and I will explain a couple of them, what they do. But yeah, so we're going to run into the beginning with the dead zones. Right stick is 5, left stick is 0. I like having the left stick on 0 just because it helps with your strafe and movement speed. 5 on the right stick is just what I'm comfortable with. I am pretty heavy on the sticks, so I often bump this up by 2 when I'm warming up, when I'm trying to get warmed up, you know, for the first hour when I'm jumping in games. I normally increase my right stick dead zone by like 1 or 2, and then once I'm warmed up, I drop this back down to 5, where I've had it for a long time now. I do have a bit of stick drift with this at 5, but for me it just feels right at this spot. Now, forward running sensitivity. This setting here is an interesting one because I've watched so many sensitivity videos over the years, and this one has never been explained properly. I've yet to see a video where someone explains this one properly. Now, no hate. If there is a video out there and I've missed it, props to you. But so many people I see with this setting, they've just got it jacked up to 50. They've explained that it makes them run forward faster, which does not at all. It has nothing to do with that. Okay, so what this setting does is if you're running in a straight line, it determines how sensitive your player is when you're running in a straight line. So if in the example video, if you click your left stick on your controller and run forward and then put a little bit of pressure on your left and right stick to try and move left or right, imagine you're trying to dodge shots or you're trying to get out the way of a vehicle that's coming towards you. If your forward running sens is too high, it will be hard for you to move left and right. You'll have to put a lot more pressure on your left stick in order to move left and right. Okay, now if you bump the forward running sensitivity down to say 0, now put the same amount of pressure on your left stick when running in a straight line, trying to move left and right. You see how easy that is and how smoothly you will move. So the higher your forward run sends is, the more grid-like your character will be. So especially when you're in close quarter scenarios, for example, when you're trying to move left, like round objects and round walls, you'll get stuck on windows and doorways so much with this setting too high, especially on maps like Erangel and Miramar, where the doorways are pretty narrow, which they kind of changed with Destin and future maps. They kind of widened those gaps. But having this too high will definitely cause your character to have a grid-like movement. And really anything above 1 on this, it affects your lateral and back movement. This is what this setting does. So having it on 0 feels really smooth for your character movement, but I found some issues with it that I wasn't keen on. I won't go too into it in this video, but I found some issues with it when it was at 0. It just didn't feel good. So I've kind of settled on 10. I do recommend between 10 and 25, because I'm going to get into this setting that there is another hidden setting within the forward running sensitivity, and that's to do with your parachuting. So when you jump out the plane, we pretty much know when to drop, okay, when to fly down to hit 165 and then do your drop downwards like 100 meters or so away from where you're trying to land, or 200 meters, depends on the map. Now if your forward running sensitivity is too low, this will affect your parachute speed. You won't be able to hit 165 and maintain that. Sometimes you can't even hit the max speed. Sometimes it goes to 189 and it fluctuates. Your free fall speed will be too much. You'll fall down way too quickly. You won't be able to glide, and you'll notice that you'll be way behind people when you parachute. So there is a sacrifice to make with this setting here. Your movement will be great in the game. You'll have way more control over the game. You'll be running into doors a lot less, okay? But of course it does affect your parachuting. So I found having this round about 25 is where the cutoff line is. Anything below 25, you really can't parachute that well. But if I have it on 25 or greater, it doesn't affect the parachuting so much. But of course, you still feel that grid-like movement. Now, I play a lot of solos, and I do know where to jump. So I've just kind of settled on 10. Sometimes I'd bump this up to over 25 when I'm in the aeroplane. And then once I'm ready to jump down, I will pull it back down to 10. But it's not really ideal. But yeah, so definitely wouldn't recommend this on 50. Doesn't make you run faster. It just means that when you're running in a straight line, you're more grid-like and you stay straight rather than moving left or right. So you have less control when you're running in a straight line when this is too high. Now, movement sensitivity. This is one where it's hard to notice. Again, if you drop this all the way down to 0, okay, and you're standing on a spot and you slowly push your left stick forward, I'm talking slow, real slow movement. As you can see, your character will start walking, okay, until you put more pressure on it, and then it will gradually get into a fast walk. Now, if you bump this all the way up to 100 and apply that same pressure to your stick, you'll notice that you go straight into the fast walk animation and you skip out that slow walk. You can still make that slow walk happen, but it's way more sensitive, okay? So if you're looting a box, you know, when you move your stick, you rotate your left stick, so you do a little wiggle or a move, a sidestep while you're looting a box, just so you're not standing still. If you've got this movement sense too low, your movement will be really slow while moving that box, or you'll have to put a lot more pressure on your left stick in order to move faster. So what I found is that really this setting kicks in round about 30 for movement sensitivity. Anything below 30, and you can feel that you've got to push your stick with more force. But anything over 30, I can't notice much of a difference from 30 to 100, but I've just got mine set to 100. Bear in mind, this does affect your strafe and your aiming sensitivity while strafing, because of course, if you've got it lower, then if you stop to shoot someone and you just slightly wiggle your left stick, right, and you slightly strafe, so you're not standing still, your movement's going to be a lot shorter and not as fast if the sensitivity is low. If the sensitivity is faster, your character will move more and quicker when you're shooting. You know, if you're standing and then you move your left stick a little bit more, so you do notice the speed of your strafe aiming. So I've got mine on 100. Feels good to me, and that's for that. Vertical sensitivity multiplier, I had this on 50 for years and years, and I've gradually bumped it up because I do find myself needing to have a bit more speed of aiming up and down, because this is what this aim does. Of course, when it comes to scopes, like if I've got a scope up close, say a 6 times or a 3 times, and I'm going up a hill and someone's below me, for me to try and ADS and then like line up with the target, it's not that great, but it's a sacrifice I make, because just for my play style, I found 69 is good for me. If you can control it at the default, which is 100, then good for you. And a lot of people like scope sprays with the default vert sends, which is like 100 or something. But for me, 69 is the spot. General sends, I got that on 12.5. I used to have it on like half of this, and I enjoyed that for sniping because it wasn't too fast. I didn't used to overshoot a lot, but my reaction time is slowed down a lot over the last few years. So having a higher general sends has helped me be able to snap onto people a lot quicker, and to get people centered up in my screen a lot quicker. Vehicle driver sensitivity, I've got that on 9.5. I do drive-bys a lot in PUBG. When I'm playing solos, I drive around a lot, and this is the speed in which you pan around while you're in a car, and I found this works great for me. It's not the same as the general sends, like it's a bit faster, so it would make sense to match it, but they are at different speeds, and they do feel I need this vehicle driver sense to be a bit slower, because when I'm in a vehicle, I can line up where someone might be, switch to my seat, pan around to them, and get the drive-by going. Aim acceleration, I've got this disabled. I've had it disabled for years, but I did play with it on, and this is one of the one sends that I can recommend to just not have on. Like, there's no such thing as a best sends. Everybody's sends is different for them. Everybody plays with different sends and are better with different values, etc., etc. But this is one I would say to never have on, because, for example, say your 1 times is 5. Okay, every time you ADS, your 1 times is 5, unless you've, for whatever reason, you know, you're playing with your controller upside down or whatever. Whenever you are aiming, your 1 times at 5, it's always going to be on 5. Now, if you've got aim acceleration on, it just doesn't feel like 5, because after 50% of input on your stick, it slowly ramps up, and that's what aim acceleration does. If you ADS and then, like, you know, aim left and then aim right and keep swinging it back and right, you'll see it slowly ramps up and increases. But if you try doing that with like micro adjustments, so stutter your left stick and aim, you see how it doesn't always kick in. It does kick in. It's just not great for muscle memory. You should just have the raw aim, so it's all you aiming. With the aim acceleration on, there's different rates, so it speeds up faster, and it's just not good at all. I know there's players who have had it on for so long, and they're not going to want to change it, and that's fine. But truly, I recommend turning aim acceleration off, because it's just not real aim. It's constantly speeding up and slowing down, and you're not always going to be able to put 50% pressure off the stick, so it's always cutting in and cutting out, and it's just not a good thing to have for muscle memory. So highly recommend to have aim acceleration off. And I know some people have it on because they say it helps them to track vehicles, but when you weigh that up with how many gunfights you get into versus how many times you shoot at a vehicle, for example, in a match, it's probably more than likely you're getting in more gunfights, right? But I would, if you want to come off this sends, I'd say have it on enable and then drop it all the way down to 0, because that still has an effect. It's just the lowest you can possibly get. So if you want to come off of aim acceleration and slowly, you know, get used to not having it on, then I'd definitely recommend drop it down to 0, play 100 games or a day with it like that, or just turn it completely off, or turn it off once you've had a day with it on 0. But definitely aim acceleration off. For over the shoulder aiming sensitivity, I have this on 9.5. I don't really use the third person aim that much. I mainly use it when I'm trying to pre-aim. So if I'm running around past a building or a compound, we know, after playing the maps for so many years, we know likely where the person's going to be, what wall they're going to be on, what window they're going to pop out of. So I usually flick the soft aim in and out and aim it at a certain part where I think they might be, just to get my aim warmed up and centered on that spot. And I also do use this for no scopes and quick scopes in PUBG. As you've seen in some of the clips before the sensitivity video, I will line them up with a soft aim first to track them and then go straight into the snipe. Inventor cursor sensitivity, I don't think nobody knows what this is, what it does. I mean, I know it makes you go through your inventory a little bit quicker, but I've just got this on 5. Not really that important. Now going into the scopes. So I've generally always played on low sends. I've tried 15s, I've tried 20s, and it's fast and it's great if you can control fast sends, but I can't. So I've always had low on this. I've been down to 3 on the 1x. I've tried half, 3.5, up to 4s. I was on 4 for the last 6 months, and gradually every couple of months I've put it up like 1 or so, just to give me a bit more of that edge when I'm up close. Because when I'm up close, I'll sometimes have to obviously go into hip fire or my over the shoulder sends, which I try to avoid. Because I use AK a lot, it has really bad hip fire and soft aim accuracy. So, you know, hip firing seems to work a little bit better than the soft aim. But at 4.7, it is pretty low, but it's what I'm comfortable with. The 2x I really don't use. I've just got it on 6.5, but I haven't used this scope properly in absolute years. I don't know why. I just don't gel with it very well. But the 3x, now this is the scope that is my spray scope. I love this scope. I love spraying with this scope. This is one I've got set for sprays. 6.5, it's generally a slower scope, so that's why I've got it quite a bit higher than the rest of my ones, because it just feels slower by default. I'm not sure why, but yeah, that's on 6.5. My 4, 6 and 8x scopes, these 3 are all dialed in specifically for sniping. Now, I know a lot of people love spraying with the 4x. Of course, the 6x seems to be the GOAT scope for sprays, even though shout out to my 3x. But these 3 are completely dialed for sniping. I did hundreds and hundreds of TDMs for days on end, dialing in the 6x and the 8x and the 4x just for sniping. Now, I do spray a lot with the 6 and sometimes with the 4, but you'll see me spray a lot with the 6, and I enjoy playing with this 6. And I could really dial it in just for spraying, but I use that predominantly on a sniper, so I can still get some good sprays with it on this setting, even though it's dialed in for sniping. But yeah, so that's those scopes here. The 15 scope, honestly, a lot of the time, a lot of people don't even pick this up, because anything you can see with an 8x. People don't render in that far, around about 700 meters on console. So the 15x is more novelty. But I have that on 8.8 because they did fix it, and this is what feels more sturdy for me. It was broken since launch, and in the last couple of years it did get fixed, so I found 8.8 seemed to be the good sends for that. So I'll just go through this up to the top here. I do have gameplay, all stuff here is pretty normal. I play on 94 FOV. Anti-aliasing, obviously TAA, just is definitely a lot cleaner. What I will go on to is the controller settings, because there's a couple in here that I really recommend. Now, I'm on Xbox Series X. I'm using a Xbox Elite Series 2 controller, and I use 3 paddles. On the right hand side, I have 1 paddle at the top, which is crouch. I have hold to crouch, okay? So if you see here where it says crouch, you can see that I've got a triangle pointing downwards to the little green kind of semicircle thing. So that's hold to crouch, which means I have to press B to go prone. When I press B, I just go straight to prone position, okay? Instead of like pressing B to go into crouch and holding it to go prone. So hold to crouch feels a lot better. It's great for your peaks. Like I can be behind an object and just constantly press and let go of crouch, and I'll rapidly peek in and out of cover. So it's great for that. I don't fall out of vehicles because I really don't use the B button. I do fall out of vehicles. I have to say I do that too many times, but anyway. So crouch, hold to crouch is definitely a game changer. I don't have to tap it. I just hold it if I need to stay crouched, let go and I'm out of crouch. Another one I love using is my combinations for meds. So picture your controller in your hand. I'm going to just explain it as on Xbox, guys, but I'm sure you, or for PlayStation, you guys will know that, you know, which buttons there will be. But for first aid kit, I'll hold RB and press A. And you see for bandage, energy drink, painkiller, I rotate clockwise which I use the most, which would be first aid kit and energy drink. So that's A and X while holding RB, vice versa. It just feels natural when I've got my hand on a controller for my index finger to be on the on RB, and then my thumb's always over A or on the right thumbstick. So these just feel really natural. These ones I don't use too much, but they're there if I need to use them. I don't really use med kits that much, but these for equipping these free throwables. I will add that on the LB combination, I have LB and A for smoke grenade. So you never know when you're going to need a smoke grenade, right? You're always going to know when you're going to use a molly or a frag or etc. because there's a player there. You know when you're going to have to use that. Now you never know when you're going to get shot at, or if your teammate gets knocked, when you're going to have to pull out a smoke. So even if I've got my frag equipped, all I do is press LB and A, and I'll bring my smoke grenade straight out. It won't throw it, but it'll bring it out, right? So I can be running with a weapon in my hand or running with my, my weapons away. I just tap LB and A together, bam, pull out your smoke, easy peasy. The last one for those settings is the vehicle driver seat. Now, as soon as I press X, or it'll be square for you on PlayStation, as soon as I press that, I will come straight into a driver's seat. So I press X to get into a vehicle, and I press RB and the right click stick in together. Bam, press both of them in. I'll be straight in the driver's seat, and that's how my drive-bys are smooth, because I can go in and out of the seats with just literally the press of these two buttons. So that's them. And just on the note of sensitivity, I always recommend just going into training mode. TDM is a brilliant way to practice, but get in training mode first, right? Default all your sends. Set all your sends to default, or lower them all down to like 2s or 1s. Get in training mode, run about. You'll instantly know what needs changing. So you're going to say, I'm going to bump my general up from 5 to 6, and my 1 times I'm going to put from 1 to 5, or just go for default for now. Either start at the greatest speed and lower it down till you find your sweet spot, or start at the slowest speed and then increase them up till you find your sweet spot. Just put yourself in scenarios, right, where you're going to be, imagine someone's popping up on a rock or at the top of a building, and aim, run, and then swing your camera around and get that specific area centered up in your screen, and then aim. And you'll know when you start overshooting. And now this still works in training mode, but when you get into a game, things work a little bit differently. It doesn't always pan out the same. But if you're getting them sends dialed in like that in TDM, I used to run around objects. There's certain places near the parachute spot in training mode where there's loads of benches and debris and cars. I would just run along that, constantly run along that, and change my sends as I'm running along and moving out of objects and just trying to not get stuck. And I still get stuck now in games because you know how PUBG be, right? You know how some days it just is what it is, right? But put yourself in those scenarios in the match and just play with each sends, move it about, see what works for you. Because there is no best setting. I would never recommend changing your sends daily. Like I say, there's only 1 or 2 things that I will change daily, and that'll be my right stick dead zone. When I get on and I'm trying to warm up, I normally jump the right stick dead zone up to 1 or 2, just while I'm warming up. And once I've been on for an hour or so and I feel confident and I've warmed my shot up a little bit, that's when I'll drop it back down to 5. And maybe the vertical sends multiplier %, I bump that up or down 1 or 2, normally just 1, just to start the day. But that's one I rarely do change. It's normally just my right stick dead zone. I bump that up 1 or 2 just to get warmed up. And once I'm warmed up, drop it back down. So don't change your sends daily, right? I've been playing since the 12th of December 2017, day 1 on PUBG, and it's just been a constant battle of trying to get your sends right. When a lot of your sends were capped, like general was maxed at 10, and we didn't have training mode, we didn't have TDM. Now there's so many tools available, especially with the aim training mode, and so much in there. So just get in, warm up, find what works for you. And yeah, if there's anything else you would like me to explain a bit more, like I said, I didn't go too in depth in these settings because I did a more in-depth guide a couple years ago, and that still explains the sends. So the only difference here is that I've changed a few of mine. But if you do want that video, it's in the description. I'll link it below so you can check that one out, where I go more in depth to what your sensitivity does. But if you need any advice, anything, you can hit me up in the video here, in the comments or whatever, on Twitter at survivor1. Also, I stream on Twitch daily which is survivor number 1 with an underscore at the end on Twitch. TikTok, survivor number 1. Obviously YouTube, you're here. Appreciate you guys. If there's anything else I can help you with, don't hesitate to hit me up. Appreciate you guys. I'm out. Peace.